This is the story of XL Motors and the Island Cruiser. XL Motors was founded in 1996 by Patrick Marzouca in the town of Savannah, Lamar, Jamaica. I've come today to speak with Mr. Patrick about the history of the company, and he's also allowed me to drive one of the best island cruisers around. So sit back, grab a tropical drink, and let's talk cruiser.
It's nice to finally meet you, Mr. Patrick. It's been a long time, and I appreciate you sitting down with me to talk about XL Motors and the Island Cruiser.
No problem. My pleasure.
Absolutely. So I just want to first start off by asking you what inspired you to create the company?
Jamaica needed investment. Jamaican people need to work. The manufacturing sector was taken out of Jamaica back in the 90s. And I started this thing maybe in 96. Unfortunately, what I did not realize is the banking sector in Jamaica are corrupt. I should say, used to be corrupt. That is now changing. You had foreign banks here in the country, and the foreign banks ruled. The local banks were started back in the late 60s, early 70s. I think Citizen was the first local bank. That was crushed. Jamaica went through an economic experiment in the 90s versus the social experiment of the 70s. And both failed. Why did it fail? It failed because the people, the financial sector, were not confident in doing anything productive to the country. Their one job was to rape the country of its blood. The blood, of course, being the money. So what you found is the banks would lend you money to buy cars, would lend you money to buy houses, but they wouldn't lend anything for development. The government at the time was the People's National Party, PNP. The government gave me every concession that I needed. And people laughed. Making a car in Jamaica, impossible. Well, we started off building the car, and to answer your question, Jamaica has never had a vehicle built for Jamaican roads. We import everything. Right. So what you find is that the domestic cars of Japan, it's a big used car market, but the suspension is not built for the island, for the roads. The engine is not built for the fuel in the country. The integrity of the vehicle is really built for overseas. If you, however, bought a car that was shipped to Jamaica by Mercedes or BMW or Toyota or Mitsubishi, that vehicle is a heavier suspension than would be a Japanese domestic vehicle. Okay. So we figured, let us build one. And we built the simplest chassis. It was a ladder chassis. And we put a suspension on it that we got from Toyota.
What kind of suspension did you use from Toyota?
In the four-wheel independent suspension we built.
Coil springs.
Strut, four-wheel strut. And we made the struts adjustable.
Wow.
And that was basically unheard of. But to get it right, we did that, and the cars performed perfectly. You could put a tank on that chassis. Yes?
Yeah.
Now, on the first test we did in Jamaica, after the car was complete, we had to slow it down because the car was on a road test. It did 120 miles an hour with a 1600 Toyota engine.
Wow.
So we had to bring the speed down. So we increased the rake of the windshield, box it up a little, and got a lot of help from the Germans. Herr Fleischer, Hans Fleischer, who is now dead, was the retired head of Ford of Europe. And he came to Jamaica many times, compliments of the German government and the European Union were very helpful. They were so helpful. It was disgusting to see what the foreign banks did to this business. As radical as I can be, I think they should all be lined up and shot because they've destroyed the economy of the country for profit. So we built out cars, we exported cars, they're still running. We have about 70 of them in Jamaica. Last check I made maybe a year ago, everyone was working. And people loved them, they gave no problems. They were simple cars. They were fuel injected, 5AFE Toyota engines. They were remanufactured engines, 2 manufacturer specs. And it was an enjoyable thing to see Jamaica producing its own car. So the question being, why didn't it succeed? The car was built to be a renewed vehicle. In other words, at the end of X amount of miles, you bring it in, you redo the body, you put a new engine in, new suspension in, you're back on the road for 50% of the cost. I experimented with it in the rent-a-car business, and it worked successfully. But people wanted foreign cars to buy. We air conditioned it, we had doors, wind-up windows in it, hard tops, as you saw today. I had one, a Wasp, with a 2-liter supercharged Toyota engine, and it had an accident. I have pictures somewhere of it. I had an accident with it going into Kingston, and I'll never forget, the radiator got damaged at the front. And we called for a wrecker. It happened in Spanish Town at the time. And a little gentleman on the side of the road said, no, 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 that car don't drive on wrecker. And he took it in his shop, pulled it out, repaired the radiator, and I went down to Kingston with it as it was.
Wow.
So you find Jamaicans. Another time I stopped in Santa Cruz for gasoline. And an older fella said, you see, we used to make good things in this country. Unfortunately, the social experiment wrecked it, and the economic experiment totally destroyed the economy of the country. The country is now starting to come back. But unless you have a percolating economy, where you shove the money into the bottom and have it rise into the top, you call that manufacturing. So that is the story in a nutshell of the vehicle. Why did it fail? It failed because the foreign banks lied.
And when you say failed, you mean?
We had orders for 25 units to be shipped out. I went to Colombia. As OEM, I bought direct from the factory. When I left Jamaica, I was told, went to the fellow in Kingston at the bank, and I said I needed $52,000 to buy the material. By the time I got to Colombia, dealing with the factory, The same material came down to $28,000. Now I lost $5.5 million US dollars in the deal out of my pocket. Nobody would finance it. So for me to deal with a bank in Jamaica today, do not ever, I don't walk into a foreign bank, I get nervous, goosebumps go on my skin when I walk in. Because these people are raping the country. It is economic slavery. Bottom line. Unfortunately for me, I'm a very candid person, and I really don't give a damn what people think. I tell you as it is. So, because of that, we look to spread the manufacturing into tables. This table that we're sitting on, I bought it in 1986. The top is fiberglass. 1986, that's how many years now? 96, 2006, that's 30 odd years. 35, 36 years old. We were planning to make tables, bathtubs, synthetic granite, etc., etc., etc. One morning, we advertised for the younger people. You must, in any country, educate the young. And the training schools, which is HEART, which was started by Edward Seaga. And Mr. Seaga said, why don't you join with HEART? Mr. Seaga was a very, very dear friend of mine. I've known the man from I was 8 years old. So Robert Gregory was then chairman of HEART, and we made an arrangement. HEART would provide half the funding for the expert from Colombia to come in and teach us what to do. Couldn't get it off the ground. It took me 2 years or more to pack up the tables. We spent millions of dollars doing the tooling, millions and millions of dollars. The jig table alone was $1 million. Wow. It had to be precise. You're dealing in 1 to 2 millimeters of tolerance. The body, that was about $1.5 million US dollars to build the mold, from model to mold. Mr. Fleischer helped with that. I must add that the first 2 letters of our serial number is HF, standing for Hans Fleischer. So you will notice any vehicle that we produced had the first 2 letters as HF, which was gratitude to him for helping. And we became very good friends. And he died in 2018 or 2019. I think it's 2019, on my birthday. Couldn't choose another day to die, but he died on my birthday, which is August 20th. So that's the story of the business in a nutshell. The export of cars did very well. As a matter of fact, we had export when I went to Colombia for 20 vehicles to go to Panama that we were building. And this that ran the bank is a liar. And this is where Jamaica had reached in that era. Foreigners come into the country and rape the country, plunder the country, and leave. I do, however, look at life in the country that we should try and build what we have, not destroy. Unfortunately, in Jamaica, the money goes to the top, and money doesn't trickle down. Money percolates. So trickle-down economics don't work. And that is the problem with the world today. That's why China is booming, because they are a manufacturing country. And that's why England is down in the dregs. What are they manufacturing in England? Hardly anything. That's why Germany has recovered, because they are a manufacturing country of good quality. We could have done the same thing here in Jamaica. We did the same thing here in Jamaica with the cars. But that's history. We have moved on from it. And as you can see, the vehicles still stand. And tomorrow we will go and drive 2 of them that we have.
Yes. Thank you. That's amazing. And you've answered a lot of my questions that I've had, so I appreciate it. So I do want to talk about some of the technical aspects of the vehicle. So as you said before, the engine's a 5A FE Toyota engine.
Automatic transmission.
Automatic transmission.
4-speed.
And you also had them available with a 5-speed manual, correct?
2, 3.
3 different transmissions?
No.
Oh.
3 5-speed transmissions. The rest were automatics. Automatics are better transmission, less problems, less everything. My Wasp had a 5-speed in it because I learned to drive on manual. And the Gabrielle that we have today is still a 5-speed with a Cosworth engine, as you saw yesterday.
Yes. And what kind of brakes on the vehicle? On the Island Cruiser?
Island Cruiser was disc in the front and drum in the back.
Okay.
With the exception of the Wasp. The Wasp was 4-wheel disc.
And let's see here. Now with the interior, how did that come about?
We made that. The value added in Jamaica was 68.5%, unheard of. Wow. There was no product in this country with a 68% value added.
And as far as the external lighting, tail lights, headlights, indicators?
We bought the lights from a company in Michigan. The tail lights came off of a Jeep, export Jeep. If you notice, it has the orange turn signals on it. The headlights was from some truck that they made. So we bring it in sets of 20. I brought in sets of 20 at a time. But still have some of them.
Okay. The wheelbase of the vehicle?
I don't remember that now, but it was a big wheelbase. It was roomy. It was the size bigger, it had more cabin room than a Jeep Wrangler. It was a cab forward designed. So you had a transverse engine in it, and the front, the nose of it was short because of the transverse engine, and the cabin was built. Could carry 5-6 people comfortably. We could do anything with the vehicle. We made it in. Tomorrow you will see we have 6,000 watt amplified speakers mounted on one that we use in elections.
Jamaicans love their music.
Yes, of course, so do I.
Me as well. And as before, you said, in the design process, initially they reached a speed of 120 something. What? 125 miles an hour. With the redesign, or I should say production model, what was the top speed then? Roughly.
I had it up to 110 miles an hour once. My Wasp, I had it up to 130 at one time. But that was pushing it, and she got very unstable up there, so I had to come off of it.
And the top, so what kind of material, the bikini top specifically, not the hard top?
Those were made of canvas, out of Colombia.
Fastens to the vehicle with?
Snaps. Out of Germany.
Okay.
A lot of the products in the vehicle came out of Germany, out of Europe. I mean, quality products. The vehicle you will look on tomorrow ran the 2002 election, the 2007 and the parish council election following that, the 2007 election, the 2011 election, the 2015 election, the 2000, was it 2020 we had it last, was it 2020 election? There were 5 elections, government election for the government of the country. 2 of them that we had. Okay. One was licensed Edward Seaga Green, that's the one with the music.
Yeah.
The other one was licensed Alexander Green, after Sir Alexander Bustamante. And they both functioned properly. We would run the election, I brought them in and parked them, and all we did to those cars was put new tires on them and out again.
Wow.
The vehicles that we produced, we had head-on collision with a truck with one. Everybody lived. The roll bar is a roll bar, not a light bar. It was pinned to the chassis and bolted to the chassis. We had one roll down a hill, and everybody survived. Fortunately, they had the seat belts on. So the car was built to last. It was built to last a lifetime. Fiberglass doesn't rot. The chassis was dipped and treated.
Wow. And the mirrors, where did they come from? The side mirrors.
I'm thinking those came out of the States or out of Germany. I think those came out of the States or out of Germany. I don't remember. Could have been Germany, you know.
And how much fuel do they hold?
I don't remember the capacity of the gas tank, but I remember the mileage. The vehicles gave, if you kept it at the speed limit, between 80 and 90 kilometers an hour, you'd get 42 miles to the gallon.
And as far as colors from the factory, what colors do they come in, or were they paint to order?
We made green, we made yellow, which was my favorite color. We made teal, which was a beautiful color. We made red, white, blue, colors of the rainbow, really.
And as far as the wheels?
We had those manufactured in the United States. We had to offset it to fit the width of the body. I forget, it was a negative offset. So we had to be careful about the bearing load with that.
Okay. And with the gasoline, it just takes regular 87?
No, we used 90 in it.
90.
And we converted these 2 you'll see tomorrow to propane.
Wow.
And the car been running for years, 8 years now on propane.
Okay.
No problem.
And as far as crash protection goes, I know you mentioned before that the roll bar is structural. Can you tell me more about some of the safety features of the vehicle?
It had a give, the cage, you sat in a box, and the front would collapse and come back, and where you sat would hold firm. We'd never had a death in an island cruiser, not one. In the 400 and something that we built. Never had one death, and had bad accidents. But you know, you put your heart and your soul and your blood, sweat and tears into it, and do it right, you know?
And when you first began, or I guess at the end, or rather at full production, how many staff did you have?
110 people. Every man had a different job. And how we did the production line, we built it, the chassis were put on trolleys that we rolled. So you would roll it from one section to the other. For argument's sake, the chassis was built, was taken, it was dipped, painted, brake lines were attached, suspension on the back was put on, and then for the front we'd lift the engine and the suspension in at one time. It was really manual, more manual than anything else. And the doors were fitted. Everything was done here in the country. Everything.
How did the logo come about?
Paul Robertson, who was then the Minister of Development and Welfare, who incidentally died 2 weeks ago. I'm going to his funeral on Saturday. He and I became very good friends, even though we were political opponents. We were very, very, very good friends. Himself, myself, and Hans Fleischer sat down one evening and came up with that design. I think Hans suggested it. And I will give you some to take back with you.
So, what made you choose Savlamar as the location?
That's where I was born and grew, right in this very house. You see, you cannot concentrate work in the big city. It was difficult, more difficult to get raw material here. You'd have to truck it from Kingston or from Montego Bay. We chose Kingston. It was a better port, and the shipping was easier. But the freight for a container to haul it down in those days, $30,000. You know? You have to spread the manufacturing around the country. What I do today, I buy 90% of the parts for the work that I do right here in Savannah Lamar. I can get everything here, providing we get the price. And the people have to understand, we will do business with you, but you have to give me the price. Greed is a very bad word in my dictionary, and most people suffer from that. Even myself sometimes.
Oh, so you were mentioning the exportation business, and it was strong. What all countries did it get exported to?
Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, Barbados. Barbados would have been good business because in Barbados they take like a little Toyota or a little Cherie, this mini-moke. It used to be mini-moke country, and they cut off the top. The car then becomes unsafe because what you take off at the top you have to put in the bottom. The car would have done well in Barbados, but unfortunately, Caribbean people don't bond together. Jamaican people, for the most part, will bond together. The foreign input is the problem. Barbados got us with excise tax. You shouldn't pay any duty. It really violated CARICOM's laws because CARICOM said you should not have any tax that resembles duty.
And correct me if I'm wrong, that was the original point of CARICOM when...
That is correct. That is correct. The consumption tax is different. There should never have been an excise tax, but that is history down the road.
And as far as the name, how did that come about?
Excel means excellent. One excels. Unfortunately, that deal did not excel. It took me down the tube, let me tell you. Practically bankrupted me. If I didn't have good friends, I would have been in problem then. Thank God I managed to recover. It took a lot of emotional blows out of me, let me tell you. You put your blood, sweat, and tears into something, and just because of greed, you know? So, anyway, that is history.
Yes. And, all right, the total time of production from the first one to the last one?
We got it up to 6 cars a week. Wow. And we could have maintained the 6-car thing going through, but the sales weren't coming in good because of the lack of support. You know, they'd rather employ somebody in China to work or Japan to work than employ somebody in Jamaica, but want to live in Jamaica, want to enjoy the romantic flavor of the Jamaican breeze blowing in your face. They don't want to live and support the country. They live in Jamaica and have a house in Miami, or a house in England, or a house in Canada. Why? This country has everything that you need. It is cheaper to live here than anywhere else in the world as far as I'm concerned.
I would agree with you there.
And better and cleaner.
You know, maybe tomorrow I will have some more questions, but that just about does
Well,
it.
you go drive the car tomorrow and enjoy yourself. No problem with that.
Thank you, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Okay, sir, you're very welcome.
All right. So that concludes our interview with Mr. Patrick Marzouca of Excel Motors and the Island Cruiser that was built locally 100% in Jamaica. Thank you.
Hello, welcome back. And today I'm here with the Island Cruiser and we're gonna drive it today. As you saw earlier, we spoke with Mr. Patrick and he told us some things about the company and the vehicle itself. And today we're gonna experience those things. I'm very excited to drive it. I've come a long way and my expectations are high, but I feel as if it will live up to it. So, let's see. All right, so we're here in the Island Cruiser. We're gonna take it for a drive. I'm going to pick up an officer from the local police station to escort me around the town while I do that. And we're gonna see what it's about today. Yes, so first impressions driving the Island Cruiser. It's very rugged, but surprisingly smooth as well. As Mr. Marzouca was saying about the suspension, it is, I believe he said, struts all around.
Okay.
And the steering is very tight as well. It moves out of its way nicely.
Full of power.
Yes.
Okay.
I can see now how it is able to hold up to the Jamaican roads and navigate them with ease.
Easy.
And the transmission, it shifts very smooth as well.
Okay.
It's a smooth shifting transmission, a 4-speed as Mr. Patrick was saying. It is also geared very well for the terrain of Jamaica. As you know, we have many valleys and hills here.
Yeah.
And it is geared perfectly for that. As I'm going up, you notice it has not downshifted and it is carrying the power. Have you driven this vehicle before?
No, I haven't doing it.
Oh, okay.
But far as I can see, this vehicle, it is nice to drive in
Yes.
because you have a clear view of everything.
As Mr. Patrick was saying, it's the ideal vehicle for Jamaica.
It's the ideal vehicle for Jamaica.
Right. And going around a corner like this,
Easy, man.
there's no body roll. Everything is flat through the corners. It does give some testament to the structural rigidity of the vehicle.
Yes, man.
At this point in the drive, I decided to give it full throttle.
All right, up here.
Yeah, she moved.
So steady.
Yes. And the noise, if you are hearing the rattling noise, is the cage as you've seen built for election time. It is very smooth.
Very.
It is actually quite nice in traffic too. It's comfortable.
Very.
It is fun. It's fun, man. Very fun. Yeah. Well, that just about does it, everybody, for the drive of the Island Cruiser. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. The Cruiser performed fantastically and surpassed my expectations. It's a very comfortable vehicle, but at the same time, it's very sturdy and able to hold up to the roads. I look forward to bringing more Excel Motors content in the future. I still talk to Mr. Patrick often, and who knows, maybe Excel Motors isn't complete history. I mean, we barely even got to talk about the Gabriel.